I'm not gonna lie, when I first decided that I was going to start doing movie reviews, I thought that I would start off with Aquaman of all movies. But then I saw Avengers Endgame and decided to review a movie that I actually enjoyed. I originally saw this back during its first release in theaters before it had beaten Avatar, and since I procrastinated, I didn't get the chance to talk about it while it was relevant, but I'm gonna do it now. I should also mention before this review starts that I will be breaking it up into different parts, because even though I only talk about a few things in the movie, that apparently generated enough material for a 6-page movie review. So let's just jump into it. I don't really have too much to say on the whole film without talking about specific characters and plot elements, but overall I did enjoy the film. I think I enjoyed Infinity War since we got to explore Thanos more as a character, so Endgame doesn't hit you as hard with plot twists like the Avengers losing a battle so badly for practically the first time in 10 years. However, that doesn't mean I like Endgame less. I just think that each film is a different experience. I think Avengers Endgame expands on a lot of the themes of the previous film in interesting ways. Infinity War deals with the concept of sacrifice, and what makes it interesting in this film is that it not only explores it with the heroes but also with the villain. The trope of sacrificing someone or something for the greater good is normally shown in a positive light for the heroes and a negative light for the villains. However, Infinity War flips this trope on its head and portrays it in a different way. Thanos is the one willing to sacrifice anything and everything in order to accomplish his goals, while the heroes aren't willing to make this kind of commitment in order to win, and because of this they lose. Endgame continues this trend by showing the cost of this choice, finally giving the heroes the motivation to commit to the cause of stopping Thanos, whatever it takes. Iron Man sacrifices his future with his family and ultimately his life. The Hulk sacrifices the possibility of him becoming a normal human in order to become strong enough and smart enough to fight Thanos, as Thor sacrifices his hot bod in order to generate Marvel humor.
Yeah, I'm gonna fly over to your house, come down to that basement you're hiding in, rip off your arms and shove them up your...
Since Endgame is such a milestone in the MCU, a lot of character arcs end in this film, which satisfied some people and irritated others. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Black Widow are the main ones that are either praised or criticized by fans. I don't know about most people, but I was fine with how the big three's character arcs were handled in this film. But I didn't really care about Black Widow since I haven't really cared about what happens to her since she was in Age of Ultron. However, the character arc that I ended up paying the most attention to was that of the villain. Over the years of watching Marvel movies, only a few villains have left any impact on me as both a viewer and as someone who enjoys dissecting characters in an amateur way. Aside from Thanos, I also remember Loki, Zemo, Vulture, Red Skull, and Ultron. Loki's character arc throughout the MCU is most likely one of the best things about it. Seeing the slow transition of a villain to an anti-hero to a hero over the course of multiple films is very satisfying. It's also one of the reasons why I'm not excited for that Loki show. The version of him that would be alive would be him as a villain, not a hero, and I prefer to remember him as a hero instead. Of course, the show may redo his redemption arc, but I'm not sure how I'd feel watching the same thing over again. Zemo, although a one-note villain, is still a compelling one. It's amazing that a guy with only the skills of a typical action movie hero can break the Avengers apart, even if it's only for one movie. Vulture is another interesting one-note villain. He's a criminal not because he's evil, but because of what he's doing to support his family. And a lot of his intimidation comes because of what he's willing to do because of this fact. Red Skull I mainly like because he's the only good thing about Hydra in the MCU. Do at me. The only reason why I like Ultron is that he's better in the MCU than in the comics. I think that an evil robot built by Tony Stark would act more like him rather than an emotionless robot. Sorry, Ralph, I love your content, but I don't think that making him act more like a Terminator would make him more generic, especially when we have villains that have the personality of robots already. I would also like to mention that when I originally wrote this review, I had not seen Far From Home. Now that I have, I'd rather give the film its own review and talk about Mysterio more in depth there. While I liked his character, I'm not sure if I would classify him as one of my favorite villains, like how I have the others, especially since he's very similar to Vulture, but that's a video for another day. Thanos is comprised of many of the qualities that make these villains interesting. He's the protagonist of Infinity War, and he would be horrible if he was written like a villain like Malekith the Accursed, an obstacle for the hero to overcome and nothing else. Unlike the heroes in the film, Thanos won't compromise his beliefs, which drive him to make the sacrifices that he does in the film, unlike the Avengers. This is what makes him a compelling hero, which is why I'm not sure how I feel about him in Endgame.